All right, family, we should be live now. Still getting everything together. Um, Come on in, come on in. We about to have a good show tonight, a good talk, a good conversation tonight, family. All right. Yeah, tell your friends and family, hit the like button. Got a special guest on tonight, and as usual, let me get to a quick commercial, and we'll be right back after this quick commercial, family.
It's the numerational session with King Simon. Text your full name and date of birth to 347-496-1022. That's 347-496-1022. And get my books on Amazon now.
All right, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome back to the platform the wonderful Vicki Dillard. Welcome back, sis. Welcome back.
Thank you so very much. I bow to my brother. Brother Rich, you are absolutely amazing. I'm so proud of you. I say that all the time. It's so true. And thank you for the glorious work that you're doing for such a time as this.
Indeed. It's a wonderful time we are living in a sense, Vicki, that we're seeing so much change happen in front of our lives. And so, yeah, it's an incredible time we live in. 2024 just started, and it's weird. Everybody was talking about the Epstein files to start 2024, but they wasn't talking about the Katt Williams files for 2024. But listen, comedy, Vicki, comedy and laughter is so important to us, so important to humanity.
Yes.
We love our comedians for what they do, for making us laugh.
Yes.
I remember, Vicki, just real quick, I remember there was this, you know how people do ayahuasca and DMT and all that?
Yes.
There's this thing called the toad medicine. And he said it's like the venom from a toad, I believe. And Mike Tyson talked about it a lot. And a brother named Uncle Hank was telling me about it. And I tried it. I remember me, Cambada, artist named Cambada, and another artist named Loaded Lux. We all tried it one night. Because I was too, I didn't want to do DMT and the rest of them. I was like, all right, I tried the toad. And I tried it, Vicki. And when I took the toad, I immediately went to a realm of laughter. Pure laughter. It was weird, like, because we often don't associate laughter with spirituality. And when you take things, you're thinking about a real spiritual experience. My spiritual experience was a realm of just pure laughter. And I was like, wow, this is spirituality. This is like, it was just pure laughter. So laughter is something that we take for granted, the healing effects of it, how important it is. And our comics, our comedians bring that to us in this realm.
Yes.
One other thing before we start out and ask you the first question, Vicki, actually, what a lot of people don't know in spirituality in a tarot deck, and when you play with the tarot cards, the Joker is known as the Fool. Actually, one of the, I think it's the most powerful card in the deck. Symbolizes the alpha and omega, and the numerical value of it is 0. And you know, 0, that's Big Mama energy right there. You know, that's Big Mama energy right there. So the Joker, the comedian, that, you know, God might be the ultimate comedian, Vicki. You know what I'm saying?
Come on.
To start out with, we're in this era where we're seeing the system just completely fall. We're seeing people finally unveil the truth in the mainstream media, not mainstream media, but online. We're seeing systems fall. With what Katt Williams said and what he did with the comedy, some people view it as a distraction. Some people view it as another truth teller, changing the world through media, one of the most powerful weapons. What's your thoughts on the way 2024 started and this brother getting, 18 million views in 2 days, Vicki? That's wow.
And really, it's really more than that, right? If we really consider all of the clips that are out there, Shay Shay, the podcast, he's cutting them all up and getting hundreds of thousands of views and even millions on some of the other ones that he's shortening. Then people from all over the world are commenting on it. But I understand what you're saying, specifically coming from the actual podcast is absolutely amazing. I'm going to say this. The nature, the attribute of a goddess or a god is equally creative and destructive. And so I've started a magazine called Venus, my luxury magazine. I just got
Dope.
my heart for years, finally manifested, and looking forward to doing my second edition. And some of the I channeled that name sometime back for the magazine. And when you study Venus, it's not only a feminine energy, a deity or goddess, as it were, but it's also a planet. And one of the things that we know is that people want to pull from the divine feminine, the luxury, the beauty, the sexuality, and those attributes that are associated with it. But one of the other attributes that is definitely associated with Venus is war. And so it's important that we understand this duality and this counter energy that's necessary throughout our galaxy, our universe. Yes. And so I say that 2024 has gotten off to an absolutely amazing start with the demolition, this unbuilding, this erasure. Yes. And so when we destroy, when you raise something really to the ground, that's pretty profound, because how many of you all know that oftentimes when you're trying to build something else, you've got to first destroy something? Yes.
Yes.
And during the destruction, it's quite messy, isn't it? It's loud, it's inconvenient, it's violent, but it's necessary for the rebuilding, and particularly because it has everything to do with what? The foundation. That is the thing upon which everything else is going to sit. So I think that if we see this from a prophetic or a spiritual or metaphysical lens, it would make more sense for us. And to be sure, there are parts that we can criticize, and there are parts that one could say naturally that this is just outrageous. But for me, my approach as a spiritual is always magic over logic. I've said that for a long time.
Yeah, I love it.
It's always that. And the reason it has to always be that is because everything we see came from everything we can't see.
Tell them.
Everything we see came from everything we can't see. And the spiritual realm, the spiritual council, the unseen government, they oftentimes, Brother Rich, and I hope your audience is ready for this, use scandalous means. The Ways and Means Committee, that's an actual governmental entity in the United States. Yes. The Ways and Means Committee. They deal a lot with finances and the distribution of funds. The divine, the ethers, have a Ways and Means Committee and its government as well. And the ways and the means and the manner in which they do things, it doesn't always seem to be logical or make sense. You understand?
Right.
So we'll poke at it and say, well, this is out of line and that's out of line. But when we look at it from the proper perspective, you understand, we can dance with this thing and coordinate with this thing, and we can see the play, which is why I rock with Ye when he was exposing them folks. And a lot of the people that was that said he should shut his mouth, that he should apologize, and that he was moving into acts of anti-you-know-what and so forth, telling him he didn't do it right. Well, you and your professional self, you subject verb agreement ninjas, is what I call it.
Wow, okay.
You had the chance to do it right, didn't you? You don't call them folks out, do you? No, you don't do that. You don't even mention them. You're too scared to death and you stay away from them. And so you're looking at a sister who is the child of mother and father from Mississippi. I was born and raised from the dirty South. You feel me? I now live in the Wild Wild West.
Right.
And so I was raised a certain type of way in a Christian home and environment where there were expectations and standards that were not just spoken, but lived by my mother and my grandparents. We were with our father for the first few years, but most of the time when my mother and father separated, we were with my mother and my maternal grandparents. And so there's a prim and a proper way I was trained and taught, you understand? But when you live the tumultuous life that I've lived, and you interface with different powers like the United States of America, the feds, you understand, the state, government, local entities, investigators, Wall Street entities and others, media folk, what I was rocking with, you feel me?
Mm-hmm.
These types of energies. And then you go to their formal systems and courts for justice. And you see the establishments, the established systems, and even their media that sometimes we call the legacy media. Yes, when we go the prim and proper way, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you see they dirty. And the place that I'm supposed to go, where my case is supposed to be heard, I'm talking about civil stuff now, where I'm supposed to have the right to produce evidence and witnesses and get to the merits of my case. I see you trick me, you understand? I see you use these beautiful facilities, and I see you use the official governmental seals, but you cover it with your crimes, and you get away with it because you do it in a court of law. Yes, under the color of law. And then you play these tricks to where I'm here to get justice. So you rig the system so I never get to the merits of the case. So you throw me out based on a technicality, a legal technicality. And then you rig the system. Where do you go? Do I have respect for the system that you told me to go to get justice? But y'all damn dirty up in this mud.
Mm-hmm.
So if I work with the streets, if I work with those that you have said are a part of this underworld, the unacceptable, I'm still talking about yay, and how you do stuff, this is not the right way to do it. You understand what I'm saying? I believe in working with dirty power in appropriate times. And when you're looking at somebody like myself that was looking at 20 years and was given a 5-year sentence in an unjust criminal case and shipped to a federal court in Texas, a federal prison in Texas. And you sitting there talking to somebody that locked up with, sister, queen, and you realize they don't understand that. You understand what I'm saying? You start to see the Lord when somebody, because I had some riders with me that didn't know me that well, but that was spirit. And I told the girl, I said, don't talk to her like that. No. She said, blankety, blank, blank, blank. The girl came too. And I said, oh, this is the Lord. This is God. This is the Lord. Talk back to me. My point in bringing that up is that sometimes the ways and means in which certain things are done is scandalous, and it seems like it's not appropriate, it's not right. But I believe in certain levels of messiness, you understand? And when you're somebody that deals with magic, and you become acquainted with power and energy and force in different forms, you don't put the labels that mere mortals put on it. You understand? And it is a case-by-case situation to where you have to discern, you understand? Now, I'm not saying about getting involved in illegal crimes and stuff like that. I'm just simply trying to tell you that those that are dressed up and that those that claim to work for formerly the government and established systems, I'm saying that you are the real criminals, many of you. You understand what I'm saying? And I'm saying that because that system is there, we know just like slavery, right? It was the law. Yes? Wasn't it?
Good point.
What are the black codes?
Yeah.
These were things that were codified in law, but was it right? Why do we love Harriet Tubman?
Good point.
Why do we love Denmark Vesey? We don't love them because they waited for our oppressor to grow up and grow a conscience. We love them because before it was official that we should be free. They took the law into their own hands, did they not? That's what I'm talking about. In those particular circumstances, in that particular context. And so I want us to see really what Katt Williams was doing from a higher perspective in that sense. Now, can I tell you a few takeaways? Things that stood out to me most since before we get into the 2024 spiritual revelations, I believe is what you called it. I listened to all 2 hours, 46 minutes and some odd seconds of this podcast. Of course, I had already seen some extensive clips prior to me watching it, but I, of course, wanted to have the full range experience for myself. And one of the things that I want to emphasize, in addition to what I just said, the thing that stood out to me is a couple of quotes that he said. And that was when Shannon Sharp said to him, you know, because he wondered, he questioned him about, wasn't he afraid to kind of come after some of the people he was talking about? Do you remember that seeing that clip?
Oh, yeah.
To him, you know, and Shannon Sharp said something interesting, Brother Rich. You know what he said? What? He said, these people are powerful.
Yeah.
You know what Katt Williams said?
Oh, what he said? Tell him.
He said, these people are not powerful.
Mm.
I got to hit my gavel on that, Brother Rich. Can I do it?
Go ahead, sis. Go ahead.
For those of you that don't know, I always talk about this. The Vicki Show is a home of the hand claps and the gavel raps, baby. Revelation over 18 plus years. We're in 2024, so I'm probably moving closer now into the 19th year. This is not something that's a little trick for me, baby. It's something that came by divine revelation, where a supernatural counsel came down and told me that this was what my words were like, and I've been incorporating this into my spiritual rituals, and I brought it online to the different platforms that I was on. And that is very important because it is often associated with legal proceedings. Yes, it's often associated with your policymakers, your lawmakers, your assembly folks, and your judges. Yes. And I wanted you to understand that your words matter and you make matter. So that's why I use that. And of course, let me just say this as a side note, one such thing, because a gavel is a type of hammer. Yes, a gavel is a type of hammer.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the many uses of a hammer is to build something. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But you can have a sledgehammer too and destroy some stuff. Yes.
Ooh.
But then you can also use a hammer as a force amplifier. That's what I use it for, and legislate on an unseen dimension. So I wanted to just throw that out there. He said, Shannon Sharp, a famous figure, a man that is on some pretty powerful and visible platforms, one might argue. This man, Shannon Sharp, said to Katt Williams that the folks that he was calling out, these are some powerful people. He didn't say that because he was trying to give them a compliment. He said it because it was about trying to measure his fear level. Let me tell you something. I know that all too well. When I was dealing with certain entities and powers and fighting against them, it was all of these folks that were so religious that said to me, don't you know if you do this with that, they gonna do that to you? Oh, don't you do that? I had a well-known activist tell me, they hinted at me to go ahead and do a plea agreement in a criminal case. He said, you know what they want? He made it clear to me, you know what they gonna do to you if you go up there and just tell the truth and do it like this? An activist said that to me, and he began to try to instill fear in me. That stood out to me when Katt Williams immediately said to him, these people are not powerful. And then he went on to talk about, in his words, this notion of God and what side the other side was on. And so I could appreciate him putting them down to size. And this is very important when we're experiencing the demolition on a national and international scale, because what we're seeing happen in the Sudan, what we see happen in the Sahel, what we see happen in West Africa, what we see happen here in the United States of America, what we see happen in the Middle East right now with Israel conducting its genocide on the Palestinian people, what we see happening physically, you understand, what we see happening with the economy, what we see happening about us and around us, we've got to understand and be of the persuasion. These people aren't powerful. These people are not powerful. That's the mindset that we have to have. That stood out to me. Another thing that stood out to me is when he talked about the number of books that he read and all that sort of things. But before that, and some people dispute whether they believe the veracity of that or not, that's neither here nor there. I believe he was proficient as a young child. I believe that he was inquisitive and intelligent and a genius. But I think this part that he said around about the same time is when he said that he knew things, and I took notes here. He said, I knew things and I wasn't sure how I knew them.
You said that before.
Come on. What, Brother Rich?
You said that before.
Brother Rich.
And when you said that before, I said, oh, I felt it because I was like, oh, I felt that way before. So there's something about spiritual people that this is something that happens to us. So yeah, you said that before. Yeah.
I know stuff I don't know. That's what am I saying? I know stuff I don't know, and I brag about that. So that stood out to me that he said that. Of course, it was interesting to find out that at one time he was connected to the Nation of Islam in a formal situation. I thought that was interesting. And then another time where he discusses the fact that they actually tried to to kill him. They tried to unalive him. He talked about at a particular time. And then I thought it was fascinating the number of children he adopted and raised. I thought that was quite fascinating. 7 children, if I haven't been mistaken, that he adopted. So I thought that was fascinating. One of the things that I also noticed, and I want to say this, and this might cause a little bit of discomfort among spirituals. Okay, I'll give y'all that disclaimer. Is that okay? He talked about and compared his dedication to his craft. Yes, he talked about the hundreds of comedians that he studied, and I want to say that he said at least 10 times each for each of those. He talked about the greats that he learned from, and there's no question, and I think he can prove that in no limit of time, his brilliance, right, and his ability. There's no question his ability. I mean, he's funny and he stands out amongst others. Keep that in mind. Yes. He said something else when he talked about what's our brother name that just got off? He was dealing with, was it 4 charges, and he was found guilty of 2 and not guilty of 2 others. What's our brother's name who just got caught up with the white girl? I don't know why I'm drawing a blank.
Jonathan Majors?
Yes, thank you, Jonathan Majors. They talked about Jonathan Majors. I'm bringing this up.
Yeah.
And he talked about, Katt Williams said he, in talking to Shannon, he said, well, he said, I don't see, he said white women are no, different than any other woman, but he said, I'm scared of them, which is why he said he's avoided dealing with them, I guess, because how they can mess up your whole world in 2 weekends. So, and he's the one that invoked Jonathan Major's name in the conversation. And then he went on to talk about his world tours and him being in some of the European countries and so forth, and discuss the fact that, of course, he said those different people and those folks are no different than anybody else. He was talking about other people groups, Caucasians, whites, that he would help, and basically not seeing anybody any different, than us, basically, right? Not got that sense about not really being so much pro-Black, that sort of thing. I'm going to say this because this is something I have to say. My entire life, and I just turned 45, Brother Rich, on January 2nd.
Happy belated. Happy belated.
Thank you so much. A glorious feeling to be 45 years of age. So as a student of spirituality and religion, not a master, but a student, and having tapped into some of these things and understanding some of the energies of some of these things, and as I grow and learn, I can understand how you feel that you come to intellectual supremacy. Some folks feel like that they have mastered something. They feel like they've been exposed to enough to where everything and everybody is the same. And then people give scientific reasons as to why, and invoke such terms as this new age that we're in and this new frequency that we're in and how everybody and everything is the same. Let me tell you something. I'm not someone that doesn't understand why one would say that. Are you hearing me? I'm someone, notwithstanding now, some platforms, I want to say this, some folks used to seeing me on like Fly Nubian and some other platforms that I had with Dr. Boyce. Right now, I'm not connected to him. There's some behind the scenes stuff. I won't get into any of that at this point, but I'm still on another network and other platforms. And of course, I'm giving more attention now to my own channel at Vicki.TV. Over the years, Brother Rich, and the different platforms and the different networks that I've helped to build, you have a greater reach. You understand? So I hear from people in Israel. I hear from people in Europe and in Russia and in Australia. Do you understand what I'm talking about? So you understand that your impact is not just your own. It's not just your four no more. It's not just your hood, not just your community, right? That's understood. Don't check me, baby. I'm unable to be checked on that. I'm uncheckable, in fact. I'm saying this because you have a large spiritual community. And I know that it lies under the surface and people want to get away with this, but I'm going to help you. This is an admonishment that came on me as I was preparing for tonight's broadcast. No level of ascendancy that you could ever get scientifically, spiritually, metaphysically, otherwise, I don't care whose name you drop. I don't care what credentials. You hear me and you better hear me real good. if your spirituality and your science does not solve problems in the terra firma that you're on, ninja, if this is beneath you, and if you want to talk about science and this other stuff in a way that has no bearing on your reality, and then you act like everybody and everything is the same, I challenge you on that. It cannot be true. When I say talk black to me, I've said this for years. I am not talking just about black folks in the traditional sense of my people and my own. I'm invoking something spiritually and cosmically, because black, as the nation teaches, is the essence, yes, from which all things come. So when you're looking at a black person and they experience things historically that can be recorded and proven more and disproportionately than anybody else, talk black to me, and you're looking at the black woman, the oldest human being, who has the mitochondria. Don't you act like I'm just like Gretchen and Karen. It is not about black supremacy in that sense. It's about rank. It's about order. It's about how things are arranged. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
So don't come to me like we don't have a unique purpose. The original mothers and fathers of civilization in this time to reorder and rebalance the world, and with a particular emphasis on the original black woman.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to say, I am so over folks acting like we didn't like everybody. And so because you done wrote a few books, you invited to a few platforms that you think is out of reach for us, or because you've engaged with the other people groups, I said, I understand that. Didn't I say that? My reach is that as well. And it's profound. I am their mother. Of course I impact them, fool. But to act like that we're just like everybody else in this time, and that there's not a particular rank and order and a unique work that we do that none else can do at this moment is incorrect. And I will not let any get by with it. I ain't tripping about who you decide you want to marry, or lay with, or whose babies you want to bear. I'm simply saying that this is a metaphysical and a spiritual thing. And when you're dealing with the black man and the black woman, you're not dealing with just a color issue. You're dealing with the vibrational energy issue. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
And this has to do with the ma'at and the proper arrangement of things. Now, this may seem like it's out of order. It may seem like it doesn't make any sense. But this was a heaviness on me that I was supposed to release into the atmosphere, because you got a lot of people that do a lot of things. You got a lot of people that's a part of a whole lot of different spiritual systems. And you think that because you've acquired a whole lot of something, baby, you better go sit your funny looking self down. You're listening to your mother, the ancient one, the oldest human being. And there is nobody that you can put before me that can neither gainsay or resist what I said. And if I be a prophetess, it shall be this way and no other. And you will see it in due course.
Mm-hmm. Let me I don't want you to let them get you too angry, Vicki, because I see that look in your eyes. You look like
it ain't about that. This is something that had to be said. And it was something that Katt hinted at in his interview.
Hinted at it, yeah.
You understand? And so I know that that's connected to what's going on in the spiritual world, because we use it as a justification. But we're going to miss our contract with Earth if we miss the fact that we have a unique work to do. It's not about black supremacy. That's why I'm emphasizing that. But it is about rank. And it is about a greater frequency and a vibration and a unique work that nobody else is meant to do in this time.
You know, one of the things, Vicki, that, you know, when you talked about the black man and the black woman, one of the things that Boozy stressed during this interview. So I'm sorry, I said Boozy because I'm about to ask about Boozy. Okay. One of the things that Katt stressed in this interview was some of the homosexual acts that go on behind the scenes in Hollywood, and people being forced to engage in acts that, I guess, for pay. There's a term called gay for pay. And
when I was locked up, there was a thing called gay for the stay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Gay for the wow. That's wow. I could, yeah.
I see them. You see that same mouth that they doing something in the
Yeah, yeah,
bedroom with you. That's the same mouth they greet their husband and children with when they come to visit them on the weekends.
yeah, yeah. Definitely. So he talked about it a lot, Vicky, and he mentioned names like Harvey Weinstein. What's the guy, the other comedian name? What's the black dude name? I forget his name, but he mentioned Diddy. He mentioned a couple of people in Hollywood and just what goes on. He talked about protecting his virgin booty hole and stuff like that.
Yes,
I
yes.
want to ask you, Vicky. Sometimes when the male celebrities, black ones, when they come out. And maybe it's not just black ones, but from what I noticed, like let's say Little Boozy, and that's why I said his name because I was going to use him as an example.
Okay.
Katt Williams would come out and say something. Little Boozy would come out and criticize, let's say, Dwayne Wade or his son. And the first thing that happens when a brother comes out and maybe criticize and say there's an agenda going on, the first thing that happens is that community and women call the brother gay. They say he's in the closet homosexual. That's why he's criticizing them. So talk to me about why is that automatically the first thing that's said by that community, and from what I noticed, by a woman every time a brother comes out, a celebrity comes out and says something about that community.
Well, it's certainly not every woman because
No. I noticed that's a trend, though. That's a thing that happens. So
you're right.
It almost neutralizes men not to say.
You answered the question. You really did. You really did. That's exactly why it's done. You know, it's a shaming tactic, and it's precisely meant to do what you said. I couldn't have used a better term. It's the fact that it's meant to neutralize you. And so when you submit and they silence you by saying that, because we can't have your idea prevailing, you understand?
Right.
And that's the reason why there's always this notion of a war of words. We've heard that phrase before, right? We've heard that in the media, but that's a real thing. That's real warfare actually takes place. Before we would assassinate our greats here in the United States, right? Our Black revolutionaries, before we bombed some Black town, right? Before we destroyed some Black organization. Remember, they always demonized them first. Is that right? We always tried to make them look like an idiot and crazy. And then you had Christians that had greater hate for the Muslim Nation of Islam folks than you did the oppressor. You know why? Because you shared your religion. You still called them your brothers and sisters in Christ. You had a greater a deference and mercy that you would show your oppressor who used that religion to crucify your mother in Oklahoma and your father in Mississippi. Do you understand?
Oh, yeah.
And I always talk about that, about how the fact, we sitting here tripping over Jesus that we say 2,000 years ago they died in Calvary and somewhere near Palestine. But you've got Calvary is all throughout the United States, baby. And the bodies are dismembered and set on fire, and they ate a lot of their body parts. You understand?
Oh, yeah.
This is important that we understand that. That's another reason why you can't tell me we ain't got a different assignment. You understand? There's something else that's happening with us that makes our particular work unique in this time in order to rebalance the planet and ultimately the galaxy and the cosmos, the extensions of other extensions of the cosmos. These are terms that I'm using in my own spiritual. I know you got way more intelligent folks that understand outer space and scientific terms than me, but I'm using them in a very broad and spiritual manner. So of course that happens because it's meant to silence. Of course that happens because it's meant to neutralize. I've been doing a lot of coverage on one of the other platforms I'm on, African Diaspora News Channel, where I do a lot of geopolitical news now more than before. And it's kind of taking some people by surprise. And, it's pretty interesting when you hear from people around the world. And of course, my own folks here in the United States that wants to know why are you weighing in on these particular topics? Well, I am the mother of civilization, silly. So of course I have something to say about the planet. That's mine. So of course, and the reason it's in the condition it's in because you guys think you're the ones that's appointed and anointed to talk about it, and look at the way the world is going. So y'all need to hear from Mama. So with that being said, I've done a lot of coverage on multiple countries, in particular Africa. And one of the broadcasts that I did that I think is probably 1.3, 1.4 million some months ago. I would say probably 30% of my supporters there are white folk. Wow. On that video. And guess what that video was titled?
Wow.
It was about how President Museveni, who is the president of Uganda, shut down President Obama because President Obama came out fairly recently to criticize Uganda's LGBTQ law that they passed. So not just that, but also Uganda. I've been doing coverage concerning the MP there, Mr. Sam George. I have a great respect for him. He just testified before the UN, reminding the UN and quoting from their charter that relationships between a man and a woman and how societies are formed is actually codified in the UN charter between a man and a woman. And so he brought that to their attention because guess what? The United States and many of the Western countries are putting unrelenting pressure on many of these African countries to conform. So because Uganda, for example, and because Ghana and other countries have been imposing and passing laws in their countries related to that, the United States has now retaliated with sanctions using trade agreements like that we have with a lot of the African countries with the AGOA. AGOA is a trade agreement where basically they don't pay tariffs to trade with the United States. So guess what the United States does to put pressure on them about the LGBTQ laws?
What?
They say, if you don't change this law or if you pass this law, we're no longer going to allow you to participate in free tariffs with our AGOA, our African Growth Opportunities Act. That's what that stands for. You can't participate with that now. Guess what else that they're attacking in some of the countries? Now all the millions that we've so bragged about we did for their AIDS program, guess what they're doing now? They're snatching the funding for some of the AIDS programs. So they're constantly putting pressure on these African nations. And President Museveni, in his response to President Obama, former President Obama, because he spoke this recently, he said that he calls it social imperialism. That's profound. He said, in Africa, we think that this is strange that you guys let this go on in your country. He said, but we just keep quiet. He said, because it's your country. But since you coming here, you understand, trying to impose this on us and then turning around, punish and sanction it. He turned around and made it very clear, that this is a type of social imperialism. And so I only brought that up to let you know that it is a serious issue. I definitely believe it's connected to population control. I definitely believe it's their concern. As a great doctor, prophetess, scholar, warrior, Dr. Francis Chris Welsing warned us about the fear of genetic annihilation. And that's happening right before our eyes. And of course, I feel that there are all kinds of things that will be done in relation to that. But a lot of these African countries and Black folks, some folks in America, are pushing back because we understand that's a very real agenda. But I brought that up to say it's very, very serious. And we're seeing that in multiple African countries. And that's one of the areas that most of them, an overwhelming number of them, they are going without. And they're standing up to the West and the United States because of that. So I'm saying, in line with the question you asked me, is certainly an agenda. And I was just trying to expand that to let you all know that we're doing our dirty work in Africa in particular. One of the other points I want to make concerning that is, do you know that Qatar and Saudi Arabia is one of the United States trading partners? In those countries, you could actually be unalived for such homosexual acts. The United States does not talk to them the way they do Africa. They don't impose those types of sanctions. Didn't I just tell you that they're one of America's top trading partners, right? Billions of dollars every year, Qatar and Saudi Arabia, among others. Why is the United States not putting that type of pressure, you understand, on, again, these are Black, deeply melanated folks. Do you understand? That they're putting pressure on, threatening, imposing sanctions. If other people groups that have laws where they'll actually unalive you for such acts that they don't do for African countries. So I want you to really think about that as well. That's very important. And even Russia, to be honest, Russia won't unalive you on that, but they have very strong, strict. That's one of the only so-called white countries, European countries, even though Russia distances themselves from being European sometimes because they don't act like the others over there for the most part. But you see that they're one of the only European countries that are not about that life.
Indeed. So do you think, like we said, we started out 2024, the collective consciousness is focused on what this interview and what was said. Do you think that this will be a theme this year in terms of people making these, exposing what's going on behind the scenes and things like that. Like I remember there was a year where it seemed like police killings was a theme going on in the media, and every time I looked up, there was another police killing and thing like that. Do you think that this will be a theme for this year, spiritually speaking, and that the veil has to be lifted about what's really going on behind the scenes?
Absolutely. And the biggest reason these things are going to happen, Brother Rich, is because Mystery Babylon is fallen.
Mm-hmm.
Her handlers, you understand?
Mm-hmm.
And the extension of Mystery Babylon with folks that look like us.
Mm-hmm.
You see?
Mm-hmm.
We give energy to any topic in any sphere and in any area of people activity. So when we're involved in anything,
Mm-hmm.
think about what happened in Israel. Think about what's happening now there. Did you see the outburst of white folks here in the United States and even in Israel, where a famous entertainer that was pumping up the IDF, which is the military forces there? I'm trying not to use that name as much. The folk.
Yeah, please don't. You
Yeah.
know they'll strike a channel in a second for that. Yeah.
So I'm careful with that. But one of the celebrities, the artist there, was pumping them up to prepare for the fight. I'm bringing this up to say, guess what his
You posted this, yeah. What was it? Tell the people. I remember you posted this, yeah.
He likened, and I'm not even going to say the country now, but he likened the country that they were battling with. We'll say that.
Yeah.
He called them, "You black woman."
Yeah, I heard you. I seen that. Crazy.
He says, "You huge whore, you whore, you be, you trash." Think about that. He first called her, "You black woman."
What the hell black woman got to do with that?
That's how they see us. Do you understand?
Yeah.
It's a spiritual and metaphysical thing with the reemergence of your mother retaking the throne. And this is exactly what Dr. Frances Cress Welsing talks about when she talks about that there are this fear of genetic annihilation happens for some consciously and others what? Unconsciously.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
So their actions automatically, without going to anybody's school, Brother Rich, automatically produces this because it's really genetically written. This is about the retaking of the new world. And guess who has to be restored to her rightful place? Guess.
You tell them, you know. Yeah.
You black woman. Y'all, what do we have to do with this? It's not even logical, is it? To invoke that and to consider your arch enemy the worst name that you could think of initially. And this is in the psyche of many of them. You understand? Is you black woman. You huge whore, you be, you trash. You understand? This is a vibrational spiritual thing. So I got to get us to understand what I'm talking about when I'm talking about who you're dealing with when you're dealing with the original man and the original woman. It's spiritual and it's metaphysical and it's physical. You understand? So a lot of them said that, remember the actresses here, the comedians here, they came out, got mad at Foundational Black Americans because they felt like we weren't talking enough about defending folks. And again, I don't want to get too much into that. I'm just trying to show you where it seems like these wild attacks that you would never see them attack any other people group with but us. You understand?
Indeed. What do you think about, what are your thoughts about when Katt, what I found quite interesting, you know, he moves with a certain conviction. And, you know, if there's one thing we've been taught as a people is not to be arrogant and to be humble. We're taught that a lot in our culture. But one thing he said that a lot of people will consider arrogant, he said winners aren't allowed to let losers rewrite history. I thought that was, and I was like, whoa. What was your takeaway on when he talks about winners not allow losers to rewrite? That's a big statement. And what's your thoughts on that, Vicki?
It's very profound, and I have to say, I agree with him on that statement. There is there's rank, and rank isn't about arrogance, right? It's about order. Can you imagine how military would work if there was not a proper hierarchy? Can you imagine how the government worked without a proper hierarchy? There's somebody that you salute to, baby. There's somebody whose commands and orders you take. You understand?
Okay,
And
Vicki.
yes, and so when we see certain miracles, and I'm gonna say this, in the space that I'm in, people want to act like what I did was just regular. Come on, it was just regular. Y'all weren't even doing it like this before. The haters, the people I had to come on, the haters that's out there, the people that try to assassinate my character and actually physically threaten to take me out and to do physical harm on your sister and did all this weird stuff nonstop for just years and years and years at a time. Y'all trying to act like, come on, somebody. And so when you don't honor and when you don't respect, I'm gonna say this, not just in the media space, but in any space, there's something that spiritually happens for you when you honor who you ought. When you respect who you are, when you give deference to who you are, not who you think ought to be it. God, today, people get mad at me because of my weird magic. You understand? But you can't deny the effectiveness of it. That's offensive. The way I do stuff sometimes, you understand? But it's why spirit rocks with me so heavy too. I'm faithful to channel the energy and high levels of potency, which is what makes me effective. And the professorial ninjas and the subject verb agreement ninjas think that they're more qualified based on that. And it don't work, baby. It doesn't work. The pediatric doctor that can have all the knowledge in the world, yes, but that can relate to a child in a silly way to get the medicine in. They can relate to a child in a silly way to heal the child. He didn't come with all that stuff, all that crazy talk trying to prove a point, right? You understand? He does silly, weird, strange stuff because he has to find a way to heal you in a way that you'll receive. You understand? And so sometimes, as it's written by one of our mystics, guess what it says?
What?
That the divine will use not many wise men, not many noble, but God has chosen the foolish things of the world to confound the wise, the base things of the earth.
Okay.
So the stupid, the weird, the unacceptable, the felon is often who spirit uses. And if we're going to use the Sunday school version of Joseph, y'all remember Joseph? The one that was loved of his father? His brothers wanted to kill him, but instead decided to sell him as a slave into another country. I'm talking about the Sunday school version. I'm talking about the moral of the story. He served there for about 13 years. His brother sold him there. And then while he was sold into captivity by his own, he was accused of sexual assault. And so they put him in prison while he's in a place of captivity. So on top of that, he's a felon and he is serving time in a prison in the land of captivity for a crime he didn't commit. And then something happened after many years. Guess what happened, Brother Rich?
What happened?
This felon was put in prison years later with 2 governmental officials that the king threw in prison until they found out who was responsible for something that happened in the kingdom. And when he was locked up with 2 governmental officials that worked with the king, they both had a problem. Guess what their problem was?
What?
They both had a dream that neither could interpret.
Wow.
But Joseph had a spiritual gift. I'm trying to help somebody because you're asking me about spiritual revelation. That's part of what we're going to get into. I'm already telling you a little bit about it. I'm going to show you through this story where we're going in 2024. His frequency, his royalty was so profound that even prison couldn't keep him from attracting high-level governmental officials in the belly of the beast. He solved a spiritual problem while he was in the belly of the beast. And when he accurately interpreted their dreams, one was to live and the other was to be unalived. I'm saying it like that because I don't, some of these, you understand. I'm trying to be careful with everything, Brother Rich. So bear with me, fam. That's why I'm talking like this. So His prophecy, his interpretation of their dream was accurate, Brother Rich. So the one that was going back to work with the Pharaoh, Joseph said to him, don't forget me. Mm-hmm. He said, when you go before Pharaoh, he said, please tell him and get me out of here. And by that time, by accounts, if again, Sunday school version, he would have done maybe about 11 years. Guess what the text says happened after that?
What?
It says that the man forgot about him for another 24 months.
Wow. Wow.
Another 2 years, which brought him to approximately 13 years. Another 2 years. Guess what happened, Brother Rich? I'm trying to tell the family what's getting ready to go down, spiritual revelations come 2024. I'm trying to tell you what you're getting ready to walk in to if you are divinely aligned. Watch this felon. The governmental official who dream he properly interpreted was before the king, and the king had a problem 2 years later. The king had a cabinet of the CIA. I'm paraphrasing. I'm trying to bring us up to speed. Central Intelligence Agency. Is that what that stands for? Mm-hmm. He had high-level FBI folks, right? Federal Bureau of Investigation. These are supposed to be the intelligence community, right? Those that have access to high levels of knowledge. And they always surveillancing us, so you should know some of this anyway, even if you know it illegally, notwithstanding the FISA court. Watch this. None of his wise men, it said, none of his magicians, these are just King James words that when you search out the etymology of the word, it really is talking about sorcerers. Those that were doing magic, Brother Rich. These individuals couldn't come up with the answer. Guess what happened? The man who was locked up with Joseph says, I remember my mistake. I was locked up in the belly of a beast with this man who accurately interpreted my dream. King, you might want to call him. Why, Brother Rich? Because all of the official people couldn't answer his question.
Wow.
We're in the age of artificial intelligence, is that right? Mm-hmm. None of the folks could get the answer that the king needed. None of their academia. It didn't matter if they were graduates of Harvard or Howard. They didn't have the answer. So guess who they had to call to get this type of intel?
Cool.
Joseph. So they pulled the felon out of prison, got him ready, brought him before the king, and the king said, I have a problem. Nobody, none of my governmental staff can help me. He tells him the dream, and Joseph, in no limit of time, accurately gave him the dream's interpretation. It had to do with the economic situation of the country. And not only that, Joseph also gave him the solution to the economic problem of the country, which saved the country from going into famine, and in fact caused the nation, to have a surplus during famine, to where the world had to come to them for grain because of the strategy of Joseph. That felon in one day went, as they say, from the prison to the palace. It's your spiritual gifts in this time in 2024 that's going to prevail. It's your spiritual gifts. It's your ability to tap into divine intelligence. It's your ability to hone your spiritual gifts that's going to give you the edge. And even among the outstanding, you'll stand out.
Indeed. No, indeed. Yeah, with one of the amazing things, Vicki, and that was a wonderful story. And you actually answered the question I was going to ask later on about the importance of people like comedians invoking revolutionary change. People think it has to come from somebody that's intellectual or the spiritualist, but there's the average people, like you said, the felons or whatever, that invokes God's change for God. So I think you pretty much answered that. I definitely appreciate that story, that biblical story right there. What I want to talk to you about is the energy of laughter. What I find, with looking at a comedian, he was talking about all these comedians, and it remind me of back in the day, Vicki, when all of us were young. So, for those of us who are over the age of 30, we could remember the Def Comedy Jams. We could remember the Comic Views. We can remember stand-ups from the 90s and the 80s. It was a good time in terms of, the comedic presence. And we don't have none of that no more. But one of the things that is powerful, Vicki, is you could walk in a room. Right? And I always notice this. You could walk in a room, Vicki. Two people could be laughing, like hysterically. and you don't know what the hell's going on, for you just start smiling like, yo, what y'all laughing at? You start laughing.
Yes.
You feel the vibration.
Yes.
You're not being phony, but you feel it because the laughter is just that powerful. You just start busting out laughing, and then you be like, what y'all saying? They be like, you don't even know who we laughing at. You laughing. You be like, I don't know why I'm laughing. It's but laughter, the vibration is that powerful. We take it for granted. And we're talking about, do you think this is going to spark an era of new comedians? Do you think this, what Katt Williams did, and people seeing, people think certain people with certain professions aren't important. When people see how important this interview is and what he was able to do, he's a comedian, he does that. Will this spark an era of comedians that will invoke the laughter that we experienced as children, Vicki?
What does laughter do? It opens you up in a very unassuming way, right? It removes blockages and it allows certain things to penetrate.
Yes.
Have you ever been to like a steamer, a sauna, a place like that? And then even when you sweat, right? Just being outside in the sun or whatever the situation is, and you're sweating. I don't know if you in school when we were in PE and stuff like that, and you would be kind of careful if you're at home, especially if you have your AC on, have your family would tell you got to kind of be careful because you open up, and even though you're sweating and stuff like that, you come in, they're afraid that you might either catch a cold and start sneezing or something like that because you're so open up, your pores are open up. So it makes you more susceptible to things. That's precisely what laughter does. And also, Brother Rich, which of course I didn't know we were going to specifically talk about this energy, but I think it's very profound. It goes back to the importance of also honoring the divine feminine, because a part of the energy of the divine feminine is actually bliss and pleasure. Bliss and pleasure is an energy and a frequency that allows you to get certain things done with a relative ease and allowance. You understand? And this is very, very important in terms of pleasure and bliss. In fact, it's one of the definitions that I use when I make my own definition of the word luxury, which is, of course, not only abundance, but this notion of ease and pleasure. And I think that that's exactly why it's so extraordinarily important. I love that whoever just put that up about laughter and its effect on the immune system, which means that what's happening with the effect of the immune system, that means you're healing, right? There's a type of frequency and energy that's strengthening that part of yourself that helps you fight disease and invaders as your immune system would defend against. So I think that that's extraordinarily important. And so for me, I think that's the biggest thing, is that it's just a new way of spirit channeling its message and its data. It's a new way, a more pleasurable way. Watch this. And this is another reason why it's also a powerful feminine energy that all of the world needs to experience. You're receptive, yes? You're open. It's a receiving type thing. And it's so important. Somebody said to invoke laughter, one of the 42 ideas of I love that. So for me, that's an important attribute. And so it goes to this notion of abundance. And for me, luxury is also connected to spirituality, because we don't see the divine live in any just types of ways. And even those that are considered to be kings and pharaohs and ancients, the way in which they lived was meant to promote that. So when you're moving in that type of energy, you get things done, and there's a greater corporation that happens with the entirety of the cosmos because of that flow in which you're in. And that in terms of laughter, when you're in a different type of vibration, like anger, like depression, and those types of things, there's a resistance, you understand? So you're actually fighting against the flow and another force that's meant to come in to bring a type of balance. So that just puts you in another unfortunate position, really, of warfare. So this really lets the guard down. And so it seems quite simplistic, but it's an ingenious method of spirit to transfer information and to transfer knowledge, I believe.
Definitely. No, facts. Definitely a genius way. And the thing about laughter and comedians, the Joker was sometime I was talking to Blue Pill, and Blue Pill was reminding me that the Joker he was the only person that was allowed to make fun of the king and get away with it. You make fun of the king off with your head. But now the Joker, you just looked at as a joker and whatever. You can say some shit about the king and everybody's laughing. And the king is like, oh, you're pretty funny. Come back tomorrow.
That's so good.
Yeah, so it's a great way to deliver a message that normally could not be delivered.
Yes.
Another thing that this is a great interview. The hour went by so fast. We're gonna keep it going though, family, for a little while longer. I usually end an hour, but we're gonna keep it going for a little while longer. One thing that he brought up during the interview, him talking about the other comedians, Steve Harvey, Cedric, it reminded you, and he talked about the competitive nature of people and the comedians, and when he talked about it, I see that competitiveness everywhere, Vicki. And like I said, this was such a learning lesson for us, this interview, for us to address topics that need to be addressed.
Yes.
Now, one of the things I noticed, if somebody will ask me the theme of humanity, competitiveness will be on top of the list, because competitive causes jealousy, hatred, envy, spite, all types of shit. And what I noticed, Vicki, I've even seen within the spiritual community, conscious community, whatever name you want to call it, a lot of people's master teachers, what they call master, they got a lot of competitiveness, and I seen it almost ruin them. I done interviewed everybody. I've seen everything.
I'm sure you have. I'm sure.
One of the biggest problems I've noticed with the quote unquote master teachers is their competitiveness with other teachers. When they feel like their teaching is being threatened by another teacher's teaching, then you start to see the humanity, the lower nature come out of them. So I'm wondering, and these are brilliant brothers. These are brothers that'll tell you about the size of the earth, the moon, the cosmos, this and that. But when that competitiveness comes out, when somebody that's involved in their field is doing what they're doing, and Katt Williams talked about that with Steve and Cedric and and everybody. And I don't know what level of it is truth, but I've seen it over and over again in life. So how do you think? I think that's something else we can learn moving forward in this age of Aquarius. What is it going to take to get rid of us constantly? And we do that a lot with social media. Vicki, what is it going to take for us to stop competing with each other and let people do people, and we just focus on what we got to do, Vicki? How are we going to move forward?
Such an excellent question. Of course, you are excellent. I always say that about Brother Rich. Brother Rich is going to ask the best questions. It's such a powerful question. And this is very important. Without me getting into too much detail, years ago when I was brought onto a certain platform, I hadn't been with the platform very long, and I was already asked to train some of the other contributors.
Right.
And I thought, well, I had never really sat down and did a methodical, formula for what, Vicki does. This was literally a gift, and I always follow my intuition, my spiritual gifts. That's what really gives me the edge. But more than that, I would say what's going to help with this issue, I'm saying that was normal in that environment, is why I'm bringing this up. And somebody would send me some information on this, that, and the third on someone else and act like this was being said and wanted my response on that. And behind the scenes, people were trying to gin up stuff, and they were trying to put stuff in your head. You understand what I'm saying? To make you think, oh, they said so-and-so, they did this, that, and the third. And this is what I found out was being done concerning me. When there were new rules that were being made, I didn't know they was making the new rules because Vicki was and the people was calling the owner saying stuff that was just a lie, Brother Rich.
Yeah.
That I didn't even, you understand? So I was just like, but I thought, dang, this weird. This is a new rule. Why we doing? But I didn't realize that I was the reason why they created all these new rules and regulations. So there was some drama going on. So that's an environment that's an energy you can get sucked into. And so when I would see and notice certain ones that would try to get in your ear to cause you to move in that same type of energy, and to be honest, certain ones wanted you to move in that energy because they were using, I'm gonna be honest, I was being used one time to put pressure. You understand what I'm saying? On other people, you're gonna have to rise up now and come and rise to this level right here to take the whole thing because look how she's coming. Some people are talking about good competition and this kind of stuff, but I'm not gonna really even get into that because that's not really what we're talking about, right now. What's important, Brother Rich, and this is what I live by, and this is what I stick to, and this is what would help us, because that jealousy stuff is a very deadly and dangerous thing. Let me tell you what one must do. Know thyself.
Yes.
You have to be
yeah.
so absorbed, Brother Rich. Your spiritual rituals, your private, silent, quiet meditation time, your observation and reflection and knowledge about who you are, and then you operating in that thing on a consistent basis, that's what's going to keep you doing what you were uniquely created to do. You understand? That's very important. So that way, when you're driving in your lane and some other car comes along in a violent way that just maybe try to forces you to swerve into another lane, you understand what I'm saying? And start to do some weird stuff, or you see somebody trying to rev up their engine, so they want you to rev up your engine. They want to, that's them hitting at you. We want, let's compete, let's do this. You being so clear about your purpose, you being so acquainted with your inner divinity and your supernatural family and your contract with the planet, you got to spend a lot of quiet time, because that's the thing that's going to be your most the thing that you focus on the most. That's what you're going to act out and live out the most, right? The thing that's foremost in your brain. I so know who I am. I'm so clear, Brother Rich, on my purpose. And to be honest with you, one of the beauties of having supernatural living and going in between dimensions, because that ought to be our norm. When I'm talking about miracles, when I'm talking about supernatural, I'm talking about the real us.
Yeah.
We're meant to be that. When you're operating in that thing more often, you understand your bigness. You understand, and you grow in rank and on dimensions that's not just limited to earth. So it kind of keeps you in line, if I'm being real. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So those supernatural encounters, having an understanding of who you are, being very clear on your purpose, and also honing your particular skills and experts and gifts, because that's what you're spending a lot of your time on, and being intentional about appreciating the rest of the body. You know, there's an analogy that's often used about how the body functions. And the eye is not competing with the toenail.
Facts.
The nose is not tripping with the hair follicle.
Right.
You understand? And the fingernail. This is important.
Very, yes.
We understand that. And I'm going to say something else to you. I'm going to give you an analogy. And it may seem like a simple analogy, because sometimes when we see other people and how they operate and what they're operating in, it seems to be more glamorous, or we want to get a particular result. So we think that we've got to do it that way. If I want to be wealthy, if I want to be well off, if I want to be this, I got to do it this way. Really quick, my dog passed a year or two ago now. He was a Westie. He lived to be very old, and he was one of my greatest teachers, and I never wanted a dog. He was a gift for me. He was a gift to me. He was one of my greatest teachers for many reasons, but as a Westie, his history, his lineage, even from Scotland, was that the kings used to keep them in their palaces because they were really good, because they're a type of terrier. They were really good at catching mice and keeping, I love that the sun doesn't compete with the moon, and keeping mice and rodents out, right? So that's why the kings, they were always in palaces. So my Westie, one time, at one of my houses we moved into, he was outside and he always had a beef with squirrels. And for the longest time, I thought he was the one that was instigating the drama, but I realized later that it was actually the squirrels that was instigating drama with some of their calls and screeches that they would do to mess with him. So he went outside one time, and guess what my Westie was trying to do, Brother Rich?
What?
He was trying to climb a tree like the squirrel.
Oh, man.
Brother Rich, the Westie.
Yeah.
So when I let him out,
Yeah.
he said, I'm going to get him. So he tried to climb the tree, Brother Rich, on multiple occasions, Brother Rich.
Oh, man.
He came to the conclusion in himself, this ain't meant to be.
This ain't for me, huh? This ain't for me.
But I want to get this squirrel.
Right.
Because I'm a terrier, and something genetically in me lets me know I'm good at getting rodents, but I can't climb this tree. Guess what he did after some time, Brother Rich? This Westie kept his distance on the other side of the fence. He laid low on all fours. Never seen him do this before. Kept his head low to the ground and watched the movement of the squirrel. Guess what he did?
What?
He waited for the squirrel to come down. Y'all ain't listening. The squirrel made a mistake. He didn't just come down from the tree. Guess what the squirrel did? What? The squirrel jumped from the tree to the other side of the fence. Kingdom said, that's where you messed up. Slowly, he made his way, my dog, to the other side of the fence. I watched this whole thing and I couldn't believe it. He made his way to the other side of the fence because the squirrel messed up and got on the fence. He used his paws and shook the fence, Brother Rich. And guess what happened?
What?
Guess what happened?
What happened? The
squirrel fell down.
Yeah. I don't
see. And guess what my Westie did?
What?
He played with him to death. And we had ashes to ashes and dust to dust because he took him out and he did what a terrier did. I brought that up because I'm trying to let you know that it wasn't in his makeup to climb trees or to fly. That wasn't his makeup. But he found a way to manifest destiny, his unique way, and brought him down to him. So I'm just trying to bring that up in a strange way to let you know that your gifts and your skills and the way in which you do things doesn't have to be like everybody else, and stop trying. Take a little time to meditate like my dog did and figure out how can you accomplish your unique purpose, your unique destiny,
right,
in the way in which you were created to do it. That's very important. And so I think that when you become so preoccupied with who you are, some people may call it craziness, obsession with yourself, self-love or whatever. But when you become that, and for me, my encounters with the supernatural is what made me just relentless. And I've said this for a long time, for years, that I'm famous in the heavenlies. And I said that because of a trance I was in. And because I was permitted to participate in the high-level council where high-level spiritual entities were engaged in legal proceedings. And the one that was sitting on the throne moved the messengers to the side and said, I think I hear Vicki calling. That happened after I was in an intense meditation for 3 hours. And it was time for me to bring it down. And when I brought it down, I went into a trance. And when I came to, when I opened up the book, I went to a particular story with a scene of a court setting that was exactly what took place. And so those types of things make you know who you are. That's what's important, to figure out who you are and spend more time on focusing on your destiny, your unique skills, and be intentional about showing appreciation for the rest of the body. You understand? The eye is not competing with the nose. The tooth isn't competing with the chest. Understand that we're the body and they all have their unique function. So that's what we have to do. You have to be very intentional about it. But most importantly, understand, know, love, and appreciate who you are and be about the living of that purpose so that you're not trying to compete with somebody else. That's really what an autoimmune issue is when your immune system is fighting against your own body. I know something about that, and it's very dangerous.
Wow, it's interesting you say that. The body, the autoimmune thing, I guess, okay, yeah, that's interesting.
It is. That's exactly what it does when it attacks itself.
Yeah. He mentioned other comedians. I remember years ago, this might have been about 10 years ago, I was interviewing Professor Griff, and we were talking about something that happened in pop culture. And one of the things that was said by Steve Harvey at the time was he was telling another I think a young black kid or something like that. He was telling them that your kids can't eat integrity. He was telling them about integrity. Do you remember when he said that? He said your kids can't eat integrity. Wow. In other words, F integrity, that ain't gonna bring no money to the table. What we seen with Katt Williams and what the people liked about it, with the 18 million views in 2 days, they seen the integrity, they seen the truth telling, they seen him standing up to things and not being afraid to say things that majority of the celebrities are not saying, and the people loved it. And the people responded by him getting 18 million views. I mean, people would, I mean, you talking about people will do anything to get that amount of views. The shit
Facts.
people do to get those views, he got it by standing on his square.
Facts.
With that being said, Vicki, do you think people will finally do you think this is the era where people will finally understand that maybe money can't buy you the happiness they once thought it could buy you, and maybe finally standing on your square about something you believe in, maybe that might be more cooler than it was in the last decade or two?
I love that.
Yeah.
Brother Rich, I love that.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest thing, I won't answer the question really like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to give you what I believe is a type of solution in terms of a perspective and a manner in which we, I believe, ought to live. And that is turn your house into a headquarters. Understand who you are and your expansiveness. I can't overemphasize what proper, I teach my students this often, and I remind them of this. The word ritual is in the word spiritual, right? That's how powerful rituals are. You can't even be a true spiritual. There are benefits and advantages. You get a certain type of edge. The word ritual is in the word spiritual. You can't be an effective spiritual without effective rituals. And I teach my students that rituals are the blueprint for creating things. What is a blueprint, right? When you look at an architect before they build the building, they're obsessive, yes, with making sure that the drawing is accurate first.
Right.
For them, the drawing is the building. This is it. Watch this. When they go get funding, before they go get funding, right? Before they get the contractors, before they get the contract, right? Before they get whatever, what you would call the manifestation of the thing, right? Before they get the end result, you can't tell them nothing. Once they do their blueprint, this is the skyscraper. That's exactly how I like to write it. Thank you, Kimberly. Thank you, Kimberly. This is important. Why am I bringing up this? When you tap into the unseen parts of yourself, dear brother, and can I give you a parable? One of the spiritual parables that we're taught, that the ascended master taught, that is, we learned this in Bible school too, Matthew 6. It says, go into your secret closet, shut the door behind you when you get ready to pray. Specifically, it says. And it says that the God who is invisible, or the God who is in secret, will reward you openly. Did you hear what I said? Go into your secret prayer room, closet, chambers. Shut the door behind you. I'm answering your question. And the divine, who is in the invisible and the unseen, hangs out there. Do your rituals in the darkness. And guess what's going to happen? What? It ain't going to stay in the dark and quiet and secret long, because it says it's going to reward you what? Openly. In a time where we're made to believe that a certain type of fame and fortune is the only thing to live for, let me tell you, go dark, go dark, go dark, go dark, go quiet, go spiritual. And guess what? It won't stay that way long. Be willing to be quiet long enough. Be willing to do the right thing in secret long enough. And just like when you drop the seed into the ground, Brother Rich, in the blackness, when you drop the seed into the blackness, into the womb of the ground, it's invisible to you at that point, right? That's the spiritual realm once the seed is dropped. You know how people say the seed in the apple is the apple? I don't believe that. I don't believe any seed is the actual fruit or vegetable. I believe that the seed is the instructions. So when you drop the seed of the apple into the ground, it's giving the earth instructions on what to make. So when you drop that thing into the ground, your prayers is the seed. You get it? Your meditations, your affirmations, your rituals, your mantras, whatever your spiritual ritual is, your 5 times a day prayer if you're Muslim, you know what I'm saying? Your rosary beads if you're Catholic, talk back to me. If you're Vedic, come on now. Your mantras, everything else that you do. Or if you're just doing your affirmations or whatever it is that you do, the thing that you do in secret, it says close the door. It says the way the spirit realm works is to first hush. To go occult is to go quiet. And as one of the ancient elders taught us, the word occult, you can see ocular, things that relate to the eyes in the word occult, right? But you also can see the connection with the word culture. The occult is about a hidden culture, an unseen world and reality. That's the one that you've got to get acquainted with. And that's going to take a little bit of discipline and reverse engineering for you to deal with. You've got to be, there's going to be an itch for you to get out there first, be seen first, be honored first, but that's not how it works. So I'm saying you train yourself, you see, to do the opposite. And when you do the right thing long enough, you put your spiritual body in a way that you put your muscles. What is it called? Muscle memory. Yes. There's some things that you start to do automatically when you do the right thing long enough. You understand?
You on it. You on it, Vicki. You on it.
So you have to train yourself in that spiritually so that you can begin to move into that. And as I've taught for years, what you frequent, the thing that you do often, you set spiritually a frequency. This is important. Why am I bringing that up in the context of what you just said about fame and your question about him holding his integrity? Yes, you can do that when you do it right spiritually. Yes. Guess what's going to happen? Guess what another mystic told us? What? Your gifts make room for you and bring you before the great. You create with your spiritual blueprint. So that way you don't have to compromise. You don't have to lose your integrity. You understand? Because you're doing it the way it was meant to be. And why? Because everything you see came from
the unseen.
Everything you can't see. So if I'm spending more time in the unseen, right? If I'm spending more time shaping what can't be seen, that means I'm having a direct effect on what's going to be seen shortly, because I'm making this thing first the priority. That is the way we deal with that. Is that you have to operate in the way that you're meant to be. We are all first spiritual. I didn't say religious, but we're all, our essence is the unseen, it's the invisible. There's a connection that all of us have in one way or another to the unseen, to the cosmos. And even scientists prove in no limit of time that we're made up of what? Stardust, yes? So there's this expanse that's automatically and already in us, and it moves us in different ways. So I know I don't mean to sound super spiritual, but it really is. Your rituals, spiritual routine is really a cure for a lot of that. And it's how you live with the edge. And that helps to drive out a lot of those other things as well. I think that for me, that's very important.
You just described my blueprint to my success. I mean, everything I do, Vicki, I got to go to the darkness to get it, to achieve. That's why, you know, some people, some of the master teachers, they'll say, oh, black magic. Why do you call yourself black magic? Because I go to the darkness when I do my magic. Everything I ever wanted, Vicki.
I got that right here in the top of my head.
Everything I ever wanted, I went to the darkness to get it, because I've understood, and shout out to Bobby Hemming, I understood at a young age that darkness, within darkness lies infinity. And I remember, I'll give a real brief example before we continue, Vicki. I remember when I was young, because what you said is exactly what I do whenever I want to get something. I remember when I was young, and I was probably about I'm in my 20s, and I at that time I'm like, damn, I want to, you know, I want a sister in my life to be. I want to be serious with a sister, and I want to, you know, I want to stop. I'm tired of just hanging out with the fellas, and you know, I want to move on to the next level of my life, and I want to get serious with a sister. And Bobby was talking about all this magic stuff and darkness and all of that, and I was like, you know, I decided that, and I learned about, you know, law of attraction and all that. So I decided that my ritual was going to be, and I told the story before, in the dark, I would go, it would be pitch black. You know, I would wait till my mom would sleep. I'm still living with my mom, wait till my mom would sleep. I'm probably like 21 years old at the time, 22. I wait till she's asleep, and or in the back, and I would turn off the lights wherever I'm at, and I would play some music. I think one song in particular I would play, it was the Whispers, old school shit. And I would pretend like I'm with my woman. Like, you got to be crazy. You got to be illusion. I would pretend like I'm with my woman and we're dancing. So I'm dancing when nobody's there, Vicki. But I'm dancing to a song. The name of the song was I'm gonna make you my wife. And I would dance to the song, I'm gonna make you my wife. And I'm dancing, listen to it, and I'm pretending like she's there. But that was my magic. I
Come
had to
on
go
now.
because you know what? The dudes in the street told me there was no good woman left in the street, and I said, "Hell nah, my woman is coming from the darkness. My woman don't come from this realm. Where what I'm gonna manifest is gonna come from pure darkness, blackness." So that's what I did, and it worked. And everything I ever wanted, Vicki,
That's good.
I went everything I ever wanted. I went to the blackness to get it.
Come on now.
This word black and darkness.
Come on.
You got to understand the power that lies with everything we ever desire in the darkness.
It's in the darkness. Man.
It is. You know what I'm saying? So yeah.
And that's the secret secretes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
When you study the etymology of the word secret, it's connected to the word secrete.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so when you start to engage in this seeking first, that invisible world first, there's an obsession that you really get from it because you get clearance, Brother Rich, to other dimensions.
Yeah.
You understand? And this is what I'm talking about when I was famous. When I say I'm famous in the heavenlies, baby, there's a whole other realm and reality that suffices you to where the things, as we say here, that could cause you to lose your integrity, what you're talking about just a minute ago and invoking our brother. This cures, some of that when you understand who you are and the expanse in which you're connected to. I think that's so profound what you just said. I love that. And it's a place to desire, and it's going to give you sacred secret codes. It's what I say, you become fat there. What do I mean? The more you do that, you start to absorb and gain power. I knew it was something that was powerfully happening because there were supernatural encounters that I continued to have that I couldn't have thought of, you understand, ever, because I was engaging with the unseen, and because I was engaging with this other world. Not only did I experience certain divine courts, Brother Rich, and divine councils that I attended, but when you start to do that long enough, you don't start to see all these different entities and divinities greater than you. You start to understand that there is a hierarchy and you're on it. And sometimes those energies become your students.
Facts.
They're observing you. There's a text that says that even the angels observe. Let me tell you something. During one of my situations, I've shared this before. I won't give all the details, but enough of it. I was wide awake and they came down. They were wing to wing and they had legal pads in their hands. Writing what I was declaring, because I literally started to gavel in when I got the revelation 18, 19 years ago now about the divine court. And when I was doing my spiritual stuff, my petitions and prayers weren't for me, just me only. I was guided to deal with global, international, interdimensional stuff. And so these messengers that would help to accomplish those things that I decreed wanted me to know that I was legislating. And when they came, they had legal pads writing down to make sure they didn't miss anything. And they were taking minutes. The session I conducted. All rise. The Honorable Vicki Dillard presiding. This is important. And I want to say this too, when we're talking about 2024, as you put in the title, Spiritual Revelations. You didn't specifically say this just now, but I need us to understand the stuff that we're seeing that's happening right now. For example, with South Africa, they filed a case against Israel in the highest UN court. There was some spiritual work I was doing concerning specifically the UN some months ago before this even took place. There's specific coverage I've been doing on South Africa for the past several months. These are things I was guided to do by the Spirit, but that's because Spirit was working something. You understand? My life and certain things that took place in the court. Physical courts, there's a counter situation that happens in the ethers. You understand? Above your head. So a lot of the stuff that we're seeing take place, Brother Rich, right now in our world, when this whole notion of justice and stuff coming out, and we recognize the ending of one world and another world, this is spiritual legislation. You understand? Metaphysical legislation that's taking place. And some of us, when we're tapped in enough, we can actually be a part of that and engage in certain types of spiritual agreements spiritual alliances in other dimensions to have an effect on this plane. Some of us dwell in the other realms, not because we're trying to be so heavenly bound, as they used to say, you're no earthly good. That's not why. It's because we're interdimensional, but there's resources and powers and energies that can be useful for the remaking of Earth. So our connection there is able, what we're absorbing when we're tapped into the spiritual world, we become that. And those energies are now what? More concentrated on Earth and anchoring into Earth. You see? And so we're actually participating in some call it the New World Project or whatever some of the names are. You're actually one of those particular ones that's been chosen to engage in those types of making of the world, because you're bringing down these different powers and energies. And that's another thing that we're seeing play out when we see the Katt Williams calling out folks, and you see folks upset about this and folks upset about. That's why I'm saying our edge is going to be our Black Magic Brother edge. And that's why your platform is so important, because this is one of the means of disseminating this consciousness. And of course, these words, these thoughts wrapped up in these words are what? Energies, because words are containers of power. Yes. And so that's what's important. And of course, words, spirit words, are not bound by time, space, or transportation.
Oh, none of that. None of that.
And it's how we reach some of the other dimensions. Sound. You understand? And so our goal, and this is what the divine feminine woman is real good at.
Come on, talk to him, Vicki.
We're material makers. We're matter makers. In fact, when you look at the word mother, it's in the family of the word mater. M-A-T-E-R is where we get the word matter and material from. We're the conduit between the spiritual plane. We're the one that causes the divine to incarnate.
The portal.
The portal, yes.
Yeah.
That blackness, just like we talked about making stuff in the blackness of the womb, you see, the blackness of the earth, our secret time, it's the same with the womb of the woman. We attract divine souls, and we're able to cause those things to develop, and they live off of us. So this is not just something physical we have the power to do. You understand? We have a spiritual ability to manifest and to materialize businesses, ideas, justice, and some more stuff. That's I think, very, very important.
There's one thing I noticed, Vicki. You know, I grew up without my father, but I noticed when my uncle would come around and my mother would inspire him when he was working and give him a pep talk and stuff like that. And he thrived off her pep talks. And I noticed at a young age that there's nothing like inspiration from a woman. Like when you, because you know, the men, we go out there, we want to conquer the world. We want to conquer this. We're always trying to conquer something. And there's nothing like a woman's inspiration. It's like this invisible force that'll take you to heights that you never imagined. So the magic and that divine feminine energy, that's some powerful shit right there.
I love that.
I noticed that young. My uncle would get pumped. He would come to New York, and my mother pump him up. He'd be like, "Yeah, I could do this, I could do that." Like he'd be hyped like a bug. That's all he needed. Pep talk from my mother. He's doing his thing. So
that's right, and it's so important. I love that when some of the greatest success associations and alliances, businesses, is when I'm in relationships with certain types of men, when they are operating with respect to me as a feminine. They always get results. They always get ideas. They always have extreme success. When they're dealing with difficulty, they're shielded from all kinds of drama and all kinds of stuff. And that's a beautiful thing. So when you honor, that particular energy, it brings extraordinary success.
I want to ask you this though, Vicki. We're talking about the divine feminine and the idea, and I'm glad to have you on here to ask you this, in the ability to manifest matter and to produce success and help men to produce a certain level of success. Katt Williams talked a lot about Black men wearing dresses and how he didn't want to wear a dress. He turned down several movie roles to wear a dress. Somebody he brought up is Medea. What's the guy's name?
Tyler Perry.
Yes. Made a whole career out of wearing dresses and dressing like a woman and acting like a woman.
Yes.
My question to you is, I think about that, and I think about the success of his franchise, and I think about there was something that Red Pill told me one time with a sister. He was a couple of sisters he interacted with, and they told him that, thinking about Tyler Perry and the dresses, they told him that they would occasionally watch gay porn, homosexual porn, because they wanted to see a man being dominated. And I think about the Tyler Perry, him acting
Wow.
feminine and everything like that. And I think about how much women support contributed to the success of his franchise. I want to ask you, do you think that in terms of everything we've been through as a people, do you think that, and I'm thinking about what Red Pill said, do you think that one of the reasons why his movies were so appealing to certain women and he was able to become a billionaire is because of because women have been through so much in terms of the mistreatment of men and the molestation and everything like that? And this was sort of like, do you think it's like therapeutic when they went to watch Tyler Perry? Because everybody's like, why? What's so funny about this nigga in a dress? Do you think that it was kind of therapeutic for women to watch this man behave in a dress because of everything they've gone through because of certain men in their lives or their mothers' lives and so on and so forth?
Excellent question. No question that that's the case. Tyler Perry, like anyone, was channeling a particular energy, really co-opting a particular energy. And he saw the response in women. He saw the response that he got, and he was able to exploit that particular loophole, unfortunately. But he really leveled it up because the powers that shouldn't be found had their own agenda too. And so when you connect that agenda to what he's got going on, it amplifies,
right?
What he has happening. So we say the success that he has. I understand what you mean by the success that he has in terms of the acquiring of money, but in terms of being some type of important and necessary change, revolutionary, he fails, miserably when it comes to that. He fails miserably because when they had that, the global emergency, after not taking it, he was contacted by the hospital, and he decided, because he was prompted by them, to utilize his platform, for other purposes. We understand that when it comes down to other certain types of issues, especially political, they have to do with the masses. He makes sure that he has a very non-confrontational, don't want to offend them folks when it comes down to a certain group of people that Minister Farrakhan is suing right now. You see that the Tyler Perrys are very careful not to ever, under any circumstance, not only offend them, but to defend some of the madness that we know proceeds from some certain types of communities. So he's an agent for the other side. And I said he channeled a weakness in our sisters, unfortunately. And I certainly, to answer your question more forthrightly, I think I said yes immediately, but I want to be clear. Yes, it absolutely was therapeutic, for many women, because he specifically spoke to that pain, and his extraordinary ability is to keep you there.
To keep you there. Woo.
Yes. And so that's the part that was a disgust for me. My family will tell you, I have some family members that just absolutely just loved his stuff. And it was always, sort of this fight. And when I say fight, I didn't really argue with anyone, but I made it clear, this ain't I can't, I can't do him. And so it was just this particular energy. So when you're conscious enough, when you're spiritual enough, of course, it's an offense. When you're awake, you can see very clearly, but there's no question that was an exploitation of the pain of some of our sisters and his ability to keep us, in that particular place. And because of his ability to keep us in that place, that's a type of currency. He collects. Yes.
Yeah. Wow.
Unfortunately. And that's the reason why I know some people like to give him credit and say, well, he's done this and helped this and that. But none of that's ever mattered. I mean, if you're leading your people ultimately, and you're engaged in all types of agenda that's, ultimately against the well-being of your folks, I mean, we certainly can't consider that to be, in the real sense, success. So
Indeed. I love the way you answer that, Vicky. Listen, I want to we're about to wrap it up. I want to get to one question from somebody in the chat, but before
Yes,
we do that, Vicky, I know there was something you want to share. I know you got a lot going on. You do
yes,
this, you got you do classes and stuff like that. And
yes,
tell the
yes.
people what's going on. Yeah, please
My
do.
new mastermind school. Of course, this is not just one of my special webinars that I would do, like the one I did with Brother Rod recently on the Ancestors webinar. This one is going to be my monthly mastermind. It's called now the Vicki Dillard Mystery School. I am so excited, Brother Rich. The Vicki Dillard Mystery School. I'm asking for 12 months, the entirety of 2024. It's a very, very, very low cost to attend. In fact, my website, I believe, is posted here, VickiPlanet.com. They can just go there.
Right, yeah.
Register. I made it extremely affordable. It was even less than that recently for some folks, but we just took the sale off. But right now, it's dirt cheap, once a month. And the purposes of these classes is I'm trying to tell you, with all the stuff that we talked about, the ending of the old world and the building of the new world. You're the new world rulers. You are the new world rulers, and we have to be prepared to rule the world. And so the spiritual course is so important because that's what's going to give us our edge. And it's all the things that I talked about just now when I said that when we go dark, when we go into our secret place, we refine the unseen, and that's what's going to give us our advantage. When we look at all of our ancient ancestors, the one that we love the most, that overcame the most insurmountable circumstances and armies, there was always something spiritual or metaphysical that they were able to tap into. Of course, we like to always talk about Haiti because that's one of the most prominent examples, even though there are many, even here in the United States, dealing with American Black Maroons. Yes. But we know Haiti became free and beat the brakes, not only off of France, but several European armies. But what happened before they did that? Weren't they outnumbered? Weren't their weapons and guns bigger and greater? They tapped into their spiritual rituals. And when you tap into the divine, when you connect to your supernatural powers, beloved, that is what's going to cause us to rule the world. And this is the reason why so often the powers that shouldn't be cause us to demonize our own ancient rituals and call them demonic, while they secretly work these very rituals and tell you it's just this blue-eyed, stringy-haired man that died on the cross 2,000 years ago that's going to give you power, when there's way more to you than what meets the eye. So that's what my mastermind courses are, understanding that if you want something you never had, you've got to do something you've never done. And I heard a lady say one time before that information changes the seasons of your life. Information changes the seasons of your life. And we know that the old ancient prophets said that people perish for lack of knowledge, not lack of money, not lack of access, not lack of resources or any of that, but lack of knowledge. So the type of knowledge you have changes your entire condition. And so when you move properly spiritually and get the knowledge that you need, it's going to absolutely change your life. So I'm in the business of actually transforming you, because when you transform you, we're going to have the results of the sun. The planets revolve around the sun, baby.
Oh yeah.
The energy in which the sun emits causes the planets to revolve around it. And so I'm simply saying that because we're going to grow in our vibration and our frequency, is going to cause everything else around us to adjust to accommodate us. And that's what this is about. And to put us in position to have true high-level intelligence. I hear a lot of people talk about AI nowadays and the threat that it could be on our way of living. I hear a lot of people, Brother Rich, and I'm almost done, talk about a lot that goes on with information. But when we look at the government, information is so powerful that it's classified. Certain types of knowledge in it.
Yeah.
Certain types of knowledge, if you leak, Eric Snowden, we'll put you behind bars. Knowledge is so important that the average public can't get all of the information, and you have to be sanctioned. You have to have a certain level of clearance to get certain knowledge. And when I was researching classified information in the US government system, they determine classification based on the damage that information could do to national security. It not only can create and bless, but as they say, when it's in the wrong hand, of course, we don't trust the government with nothing because we know that they, a trip. But we're talking about theoretically, the notion of intel. But that's a certain type of intelligence. You know how I started the broadcast today, talking about Joseph? Remember, Pharaoh of the day was looking for a certain type of intel, and all his high level Harvard graduates couldn't come up with the answer. You see?
Mm-hmm.
So Joseph had an ability to tap into the highest level of intel. That's what the Vicki Dillard Mystery School is about, is giving you certain high level information that's going to bypass time, space, and transportation and give you the edge. Give me 12 months, and I promise you, you won't recognize yourself. And what area will this help you in? Every single area of your life. Real low cost. Go to VickiPlanet.com, and thank you so much for letting me plug that.
No, definitely. I definitely advise people to go VickiPlanet.com. You have a unique gift that's way beyond logic. Like your energy, you got a powerful energy about you, and very inspirational. You like ignite, you like wake up people's DNA when you start talking. So yeah, I know the school is going to be off the hook. Much success to you with that.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Always a pleasure having you on here. Tapping in with you with the spirituality.
Yes.
I'm gonna get to now we almost at the 2-hour mark. Give me a question, family. Give me a question from the chat before we get out of here. Let me see what y'all talking about in the
Yes.
yeah, give me a question, y'all, for Vicki before we get out of here. Want to at least take one from y'all tonight. I had to get mine in. That's why I ain't start the questions early.
No problem.
We was just flowing. We was having a good time.
Yes.
Oh, somebody want to know, are you doing the angel calendars again?
Such a good question. I'm late for the new year, but I decided this time that I was going to do it for the true cosmic new year, which is around springtime. So yes, stay tuned. So this one is going to be absolutely amazing. So I decided this time, hey, we're going to do it and for the beginning of spring. So yes, so we only got what are we in January now? So in about a month and a half, you're going to start seeing posts about how you can do get on the list. Go ahead and purchase your pre-sales, and that way when they're printed up a couple of weeks later, you'll be one of the first ones to get it. So yes.
Love it. I definitely got to get one this year. I didn't get one. I forgot to get one last year. This year, I'm definitely going to make sure I have that on my wall.
Yes.
I need to put it right here.
Yes. And just the angel calendars, Brother Rich, is actually every single month I give you a spiritual text to meditate on every single day, because you're increasing that actual frequency for the month. So it's not just a cute little angel. You see what I'm saying? It's an actual text. So every single day, that particular angelic text you tap into. I started off the broadcast talking about Joseph and some other things, and then I was given a pretty strong admonition.
Yeah, you went off. You went off on somebody. I don't know.
Yes.
I didn't want to interrupt you, but you went off on somebody.
Yes.
But
Let me tell you, that's so important. In fact, that was a part of the prophetic word that I got. That a part of the prophetic job is to tear down, overthrow, destroy, then build and to plant. You see? Back to what we talked about before, the demolition.
Right.
It has to be a bit messy at first, because that's a mindset that I had to hit for the spirituals. But Katt Williams talked about, he hinted at that in the broadcast. So, I mean, in the his interview. So that's why I felt that it went in with this. And let me tell you something. When I have those types of conversations, it's not something you want to talk about. It's when there's a spiritual mandate on you, you see, and you can't shake it until you get it off.
You're right.
And you know why? That's the reason why. Oh, this is good. You know, when you talking about integrity earlier, what causes you to do? I'm more concerned about my spiritual court and team than I am about offending. You understand the hearers, because I understand the larger thing I'm affecting when I say certain things. You understand what I'm saying? That's another thing that's so important. But it was another point that I was trying to make. But get your angel calendars. The angel calendars is not something, Brother Rich, that I read in a book. It was because of my rejection from spiritual groups and people and organizations. So I was trying to be a part, Brother Rich. I was begging. I didn't care if I was in the back of the door, the overflow room. I didn't care how much I had to pay. I didn't care how much time I had to put into it. I just wanted somebody to teach me about who I was, about my spirituality. If I saw this woman that was operating in a certain spiritual gift, and this, I wondered, how did they do that? Like, talk to me about this. I was there to sit at the feet and learn, and they didn't want me. You understand? So my mother told me years ago, before she moved here, she said, what if God wants to teach you himself?
Ooh.
That's what forced me into the darkness. And I went there so heavy, Brother Phil. My rituals was so crazy. that supernatural things started to take place in a way that was so undeniable, and it involved other people the messengers would go to get messages to me, and I would know things ahead of time of stuff, and even the tumultuous legal circumstance that I went through, the foretelling of that, the things that I was dealing with in high-level people and stuff that I was doing, I was moving a certain way because I was dealing with the whole other council and other high-level officials. You understand what I'm saying?
Right,
so
right.
The information I put in the calendar is based on how I used ancient axioms as a portal. Certain stories showed me what was happening in the spirit realm. And I used that, and I kept speaking, Brother Rich, to the unformed. I started to engage with this so much that this thing took form, and these councils started to talk to me. And I was moving in such heavy power. They weren't talking to me about regular smuggler stuff. Right. They started talking to me. Can I say this quickly?
Please do. Yeah.
Who's in the news now? And I'm not talking about the Middle East. We're trying not to say that name too much. I'm talking about Russia and Ukraine, right? For the past couple of years, Russia, Ukraine. Do you know approximately 17, 18 years ago, I was giving downloads about Russia and Ukraine, and I was telling someone that was with me then when I was doing some of my live spiritual courses, because I had a school then called the Ascension Prayer College, and I graduating students from that. I've been doing this before Masterminds Online. This is who Vicki is, and I've been doing it close to 20 years. It's part of my gift and my assignment and my contract with the earth. Brother Rich, it was so profound. They weren't talking to me about regular stuff. I was legislating stuff that was happening on the global affairs. So when I see full circle Ukraine and Russia, I was telling this person, I said, they would think, if you told people today that Vicki the spirits had me moving in this particular way to legislate for Russia and Ukraine that long ago, studying it and engaged in it. You understand what I'm saying? This is how I move, but this is what I'm talking about in terms of the supernatural entities, which they go by different names. I'm just using messengers to make it easy for people. You understand? Which, of course, that's what the word angel means also, as messengers. But there are different types of officials because there's different jurisdictions. Just like here in the U.S., we have federal jurisdiction, state jurisdiction, local jurisdiction. In the spirit realm, there are different dimensions. There are different officials. And there's clearances that we often have to have. But we need to make alliances with these different groups, and these things are happening all at the same time. So I was moving in some of these powers and energies and some of the stuff that I didn't even know. And until they start coming down and literally giving me codes, literally showing me things to come, literally having me engaged in legislating certain affairs that affects the earth right now, which is why I was talking about stuff that's happening with the UN and the things that we're seeing now with South Africa and them taking Israel to court recently. Nobody would believe me but a handful of people, because I contacted a couple of spiritual people to help me with this, that I was doing magic concerning the UN. Nobody would believe that. But that's a part of what happens when you're engaged in this other world. You'll get certain levels of intelligence. You see what I'm saying? Classified information that the average person can't get.
You ever studied remote viewing, Vicki? You ever studied?
No, I don't.
You seem like you would be good at that.
Why did you ask me that?
Because you seem like such a high level channeler. Like I told you, I've interviewed everybody, and I'm like super intuitive, like super psychic and shit like that. And you're like such a high level channeler. Remote viewing, I think you would be good at that if you really study that. That's one of those classified sciences that the CIA and they practice that they don't want the people to know about. I think you would be dope at that. Like, you tapped in. You know what I'm saying? Billy Carson, he did a we had a workshop on that and tapping into our ESP and stuff like that. So yeah.
I'm gonna tell you some stuff offline. And one of the reasons I do that is because one of the reasons why in the United States they say you have to have clearance, right? Because they're concerned about foreign governments and also what they can do with certain types of intelligence when they have certain information on the United States, how they can use that information. That's exactly what happens to me when I share certain experiences or tell certain levels of things. Certain people that are part of foreign entities, Brother Rich, take stuff that I say.
Oh, yeah, I know, yeah.
You already understand.
Man, listen, Listen, if I was in the CIA, I would come to get you. If I was in the CIA, I would come to get you. I'd be like, no, she on our team. Hey, try to give her, see if she'll take a check. Try to give her whatever she want. We need her. Or I would try to pay. If I was in the CIA, I'd be like, what does she want? I'd be like, what does she want? Give her what she wants. I would see if you take the bait. I'll be like, give her whatever she want, y'all. We need her to. For real.
That's why I tell you, I'll talk to you offline.
Yeah.
I told you, I'll talk to you offline because of some information that just that's the case. I try to hit that enough because I try to get people to see. Do y'all think that the powers that shouldn't be was fooling with me because I'm just regular fool? But anyway.
Vicki, there's one question from the people, from somebody before we get out of here. What's the best way? I want to end it like this. From Through My Eyes Beauty, what's the best way to tap into your purpose? So before you answer that, shout out to Aquarius Maximus. She was just on the show. She said we got to be married to our purpose this year, family.
Yes.
I took that to heart, and I remember that. And I already, that was already my vibe for this year. But her saying that's the quote of the year. Go ahead, Vicki. Talk. What's the best way to tap into your purpose, Vicki?
I love that, and it's interesting because one of my companies is called On Purpose Global Agency, and so my former shows were called On Purpose with Vicki. Purpose, and what does that mean? The purpose is the reason for which a thing exists. Mm-hmm. What's the best way to tap into your purpose? Is to be the purpose, is to embody the purpose. The first thing is everything we talked about today, and that's first to go within. Mm-hmm. Let me tell you something. Any area that was obscure like it was for me, because remember I told you I was trying to be a part of any and every religious, spiritual, that I was on a hunt. You see?
Oh yeah.
To find my purpose, to live my purpose, because that was something that was calling. But when the divine used my own mother's mouth to say, what if God wants to teach you himself? I went within and I just began to engage based on what I knew at the time consistently. You understand? Mm-hmm. Asking is given. When you begin to act on that, even through questions, investigation, where you sow your money, watch this, joining the Vicki Dillard Mystery School at VickiPlanet.com. Mm-hmm. Do you know that sometimes your purpose becomes more clear because you're in an environment, and that's what a teacher does. When you look in the teacher, when you look up even the word teacher, it means to draw out. Yeah. So the teacher is not even dictating your purpose and not even just showing you your purpose clearly. It's just something that they do begins to put pressure on it, and it becomes clear to you. So the biggest thing, first and foremost, is just even the questioning, going within, journaling, your routines, your this, and the third, it's going to happen. It's how you know anything else. And to the degree that you feel like, I can't know, I don't know, I'm 30 years of age and don't know what my purpose is and the reason for which I'm intended, you're going to hear people tell you to tap into the things that make you happy, the things that make you upset. What are you good at? You're going to hear all of these types of things. The reality is, for me, I did all of that. But the greatest thing that I did, I started busting a move. I started doing something and it became apparent. You understand? And it became obvious. You understand? And then I had an extraordinary amount of clarity. And I've got to say, as a young girl, I had it was a prophet that came to my home as a young girl to tell me a particular spiritual text that I would have impacting the nations, and some of the work that I would do, tear down, overthrow, build, and to plant. And that my job would be the job of nations and governments, and things in my life started to take that on. And I started to cooperate intuitively with those things. You cannot know your purpose, and every bit of it is not meant to be known at one moment. The biggest thing is you got to get into your spiritual lab. Any scientist knows that you have got to do what? You got to get your beakers, put your white coat on. It ain't about knowing everything, right? It's about getting in the lab and starting to do something. And over time, as you take the next step, it becomes clear. You can't get away in the earth realm, the material realm, from embodying the thing. You can't. Purpose is not just about what you know in your head. It's about what you act on and what you become. You understand? And so that's the biggest thing that I would like to say. And keep in mind, to the degree that you don't feel that you know every ounce, every this, every that, there's supposed to be some knowns and unknowns. Yeah, yes. There's supposed to be, that's the normal part. But watch this. To the degree I don't know, guess what I do, Brother Rich? I create it. I create it as I go along. Yes.
Indeed. Wow, Vicki, what a show, what a show, what a show.
Yes.
Amazing show. Yeah, get into the spiritual lab. I love that. I love that when you said get into your spiritual lab, family. You have to get into your spiritual lab, wherever that may be. I tell the people, you know, my house, and I got my spiritual station where I go to do my thing. So everybody get wherever you know, y'all gotta. That's why Vicki talked about knowing thyself. You gotta figure it out. You know, you gotta figure it out. Vicki, before we get out of here, one more time, leave your website, contact info, Instagram, all that, so the people can follow you.
Oh, yes. VickiPlanet.com. I'm on Twitter. Dillard Vicki. I'm on Instagram. Instagram is actually Vicki X Dillard, Vicki. There's no E's in my name, family, no double K's, no Y's in my name. My name is not short for Victoria. My mama said I didn't look like a Victoria. My name is spelled Vicki. Anywhere you go, if you put Vicki Dillard or Dillard Vicki, you should be able to find me. A couple of pages on Facebook. Like I said, I'm still on a couple of the platforms like Africa Diaspora News Channel. And we're on some other things and some other announcements coming up this year, 2024, which I can't wait to share. That's in the works about where they can also watch the Vicki show coming up in due course. So the biggest thing is go to VickiPlanet.com and be sure to join my email list, because my team is really good about getting out emails now. So that way you can get links to where you can watch the show when I'm on live at VickiDillard.tv and my products and services.
Indeed. With that being said, Vicki, I want to thank you one more time coming on the show.
You.
Absolutely magnificent. I started out the year with some powerful energy. Thanks for helping me start this year out. Family, I want to thank everybody in the chat for coming on tonight, joining us. Come back tomorrow, family. I'm gonna have Red and Blue on tomorrow night, and Sunday night, Dr. Phil Valentine. Yeah, tomorrow night, Red and Blue Pill. Sunday night, Dr. Phil Valentine. With that being said, Brother Rich, make sure y'all go to VickiPlanet.com. We sign out. Peace, family. Peace, Vicki.
Peace. Mwah, mwah, mwah.